Welcome back to the channel. We're back with our Final Fantasy Commander deck profile with Tidus, Blitzball Star, or if you want, you can pronounce it Tidus. Whenever an artifact you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter onto Tidus. Whenever Tidus attacks, tap target creature an opponent controls. So we want plenty of ways to get plenty of artifacts onto the battlefield in order to power up Tidus quite a bit. So we have plenty of cards that will create Doppler tokens, ones that will decrease the cost of artifacts entering the battlefield, and just some ones that are just cheap to cast on their own. But that's the general overview of the deck. We'll get into it card by card, but first I'd just like to ask that you like, comment, subscribe, so you can stay tuned for future videos. Let's get into it. We're going to start with Animation Module. Whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are placed on target permanent you control, you may pay 1 mana. If you do, create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. This one does synergize really well with Tidus there. This way you create that 1/1, put that +1/+1 counter onto Tidus when this enters the battlefield. Then you could pay to 1 mana, create a servo, pay 1 more, you get the 1 more counter onto Tidus, pay 1 more mana, get 1 more servo, and then, use up all your mana until you have as many servos as you want and Tidus as strong as you want. Or you can pay 3 mana and then choose a counter on target permanent or player, give that permanent or player another counter of that kind. And we want just an additional +1/+1 counter onto Tidus if we really don't have anything else to do with our mana. Arcane Signet for some additional mana there. Buster Sword. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to a player, Tidus will be able to deal quite a bit of combat damage to our opponent by making himself unblockable when we tap our opponent's creature, because things can block when they're tapped. You get to draw a card and may cast a spell from your hand with mana value less than or equal to damage without paying its mana cost. So let's get some free artifacts onto the battlefield. Next we have Crystal Skull, Isu Spyglass. Look at the top card of your library. You may play historic lands and cast historic spells from the top of your library, aka artifacts, making it even easier to get our artifacts onto the battlefield. And, we can also tap it for a little bit of mana while we're at it. Valwar Stone, its only purpose is to tap for mana there. Gold Vein Pick, quick creatures +1/+1. If it deals combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. Even just creating tokens that are artifacts, do you get those additional +1/+1 counters there onto Tidus there, making him even stronger. It does happen after he deals the damage, so he won't get that for that combat damage, but he'll have that +1/+1 if we have another turn with him on the battlefield. And then we want plenty of ways to protect him so we can last for the next turn. Coop creature has +1/+0, haste, ward 1. Meaning that ward 1, making sure he has a little bit of protection there. Haste to make sure you attack the turn he comes down, so you tap target creature and opponent controls. Lightning Grease, once again, attack the turn he comes down, and a little bit of protection there with the Shroud. Lotus Petal, sacrifices and add 1 mana of any color. It's a free +1/+1 counter onto our creature, along with a mana on top of that. So, say if we have this, then we sacrifice it for Animation Module. It works a little bit of conjunction there. Machinist Arsenal, job select, create a 1/1 token, attach this to it. The creature gets +2/+2 for each artifact you control, and it's an artifact in addition to its other types, so Tidus is an artifact, and make him even stronger, make him able to swing in for that combat damage when he taps your opponent's creature that was able to block him to begin with. Mind Stone for some additional mana. Mystic Forge, so we can play our artifacts off the top of our deck, so we can make sure that we keep on casting spells, keep on getting artifacts, keep on getting Tidus even stronger and stronger. Soul Ring for the mana. Swiftfoot Boots, same cards, Lightning Grease and Lava Spur Boots. Talisman of Progress for the mana, and Wayfarer's Bible for a land, because we're in Azorius, so we'll take whatever method we can get to get some additional lands onto the battlefield since we don't have any green. Emery, Lurker of the Lock. The spell costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control, so normally it'll just cost 1 to cast. Whenever she enters the battlefield, mill 4, and then you can tap in order to choose target artifact in your graveyard, may cast that card this turn. If we have Swiftfoot Boots, that really helps out because it'll be able to cast a spell the turn it comes down, as a tap due to it being a tap ability. As for Sentinel, it's an artifact creature. Normally I don't run this in too many decks, but having it enter will get us a little bit of draw power, getting us a little bit of +1/+1 counters. Gets us everything we want in this deck, basically. Ethereum Sculptor. Why spend all that mana that we should to cast our spells? Let's spend 1 less. Forensic Gadgeteer. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, investigate, getting a clue token. So when we cast an artifact spell, that artifact spell enters, we get a +1/+1 counter on Tidus. We then investigate, getting us a clue token, which is an artifact as well, getting us an additional +1/+1 counter onto Tidus as well. And activate abilities of artifacts you control cost 1 less to activate, meaning it only costs 1 to sacrifice a clue to draw a card instead of the 2 it normally does. Foundry Inspector, a little bit cost reduction there as well. Gold Mirror for some additional mana. And once again, another artifact. We do have plenty of artifacts in the creature category as well. Not sure of all of them. Almost all of them. Gold Forge Dopteryx, flying, lifelink, artifact creature. Each legendary and permanent you control has Ward 2. Once again, with Tidus getting big and strong, we want to make sure that we can protect him. Lustrous Wanderglyph, Ascend, getting our City's Blessing if we have 10 or more permanents, which we're going to have at a certain point. Artifact creatures you control get +2/+2 as long as you have the City's Blessing, which, like I said, we're going to get there pretty quickly. And at the beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 colorless gnome artifact token, meaning not just during our upkeep, but during our opponent's upkeeps as well. Meaning that by the time we get around the table back to our turn, we'll have had this enter while Tidus is on the battlefield. There'll have been 1 there, plus the additional 4, meaning that he'll already be a 7/6 if we didn't have anything else enter. Kappa Cannoneer, improvise, Ward 4. Whenever another artifact enters the battlefield, he has a +1/+1 counter as well. He can't be blocked, so a little bit better than what Tidus can do. But a lot of damage we get on board there. Oh, that's the one I just read. Master of Ederium. Oh, sorry. Power and toughness are equal to the number of artifacts you control. Other artifact creatures you control get +1/+1. Once again, we're going to be wanting as many artifacts on the battlefield as possible. This way we keep on powering up Tidus. So let's have those also benefit our other cards, like Master of Ederium. Mendicant Core Guidelight, power is equal to the number of artifacts you control. Once again, having our other artifacts power up other creatures. Big focus of this deck. Start your engines when he enters. Meaning we want to deal damage pretty quickly to our opponents the next 3 turns. And then whenever you cast an artifact, you may pay 1, copy it, allowing us another artifact to enter the battlefield to get that additional +1/+1 counter there on Tidus. And, just some, good artifacts that could really benefit off of having 2. Like, who wouldn't pay 2 mana for 2 Soul Rings? Mirror Battlesphere, 7 mana. Create 4 1/1 Mirror Artifact creature tokens. So this already gets you that 5 counters onto Tidus again. And whenever a creature attacks, you may tap X untap mirror creatures you control. This creature gets +X/+0 until end of turn, and deals X damage to the player or planeswalker it's attacking. Once again, a little bit of damage there, something that we could actually use to win the game. Mirror Retriever, whenever this creature dies, return another target artifact from your graveyard to your hand, allowing us to have more stuff to cast, allowing us to get those more counters there onto Tidus again. Ornithopter Paradise, flying, add 1 mana of any color. Once again, we're in Azorius, we'll take whatever mana we can get. Scrolling down here, we're on to Padim. Artifacts you control have hexproof. At the beginning of upkeep, if you control an artifact with the highest mana value or tied for the highest mana value, draw a card. We might not always, but sometimes we will. But it's mostly the hexproof that we care about, so we can keep our artifacts around to benefit our cards like Mendicant Core and the other ones. Riku, Resourceful Guardian. Whenever you put 1 or more counters on a creature until end of turn, that creature can't be blocked, allowing us to swing in with Tidus even easier. And you move a counter from target creature you control onto target creature you control, only as a sorcery, but, let's move our counters around. Tidus doesn't need all of them always. Sign Master Doctors. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, create a 1/1 Doctor creature token. This way, when we play an artifact, we get another artifact, and those 2 counters onto Tidus there. Sharding Sphinx. Flying, whenever an artifact creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may create a 1/1 blue Doctor artifact token with flying. It always is based upon how many flyers our opponent has. If we deal more and more damage with our Doctors, in order to get those additional Doctors, in order to keep on powering up Tidus there. Silver Mirror for some more mana, Solemn Simulacrum for some more lands. Stride Hanger Automaton. Doctors you control get +1/+1. We have plenty of cards in here to create Doctors, so we may as well benefit them as well. And if 1 or more artifact tokens you control will be created under your control, those tokens plus an additional 1. So if we get a Doctor, get an additional Doctor. Or even if we create like a clue or food, we get an additional Doctor as well. Dot Monitor, once again, we are going to be having plenty of artifacts on the battlefield at a certain point. So for 1 mana, I'll take a 2/2 that draws me 2 cards with flying. It helps out a whole bunch. Urza, Prince of Krung, artifact creatures you control get +2/+2. Once again, a lot of artifacts that are a lot of creatures that are artifacts. Let us get that benefit off there. You can create a token that's a copy of target artifact you control, except it's a 1/1 soldier in addition to its other types. 6 mana for, I don't know, maybe a Soul Ring? Whatever you need at the time, really. That one's very situational. It's really the first spell you're going to use more. Vidalcan Archmage, whenever you cast an artifact spell, draw a card. Some additional draw power there helps out a whole bunch. Voyager Quick Welder, a little bit of cost reduction there on our artifact spells. Whirler Rogue for some additional adopter tokens. This way, we get that additional power there onto Tidus. Let's scroll on over to the second half of the deck. Oh, yep, it all fits. Yep, very fit. Okay, all that glitters. Enchanted creatures +1/+1 for each artifact you control. You don't really have that many enchantments, 8, but if we keep creating adopters, we keep on getting things stronger. Tidus is eventually able to swing in if we have him and Riku on the battlefield at the same time. Good little combo there. Efficient construction, whenever you cast an artifact spell, get another adopter. Once again, why wait until we have to cast 2 artifacts to get 2 +1/+1 counters on Tidus? Let's get some synergies in here. Mirrored and Blessed, whenever you cast an artifact spell, create a 1/1 colorless mirror. Same thing as Efficient Construction. But we also have the second ability, right at the beginning of your end step, draw a card and then discard a card. Then if there are 15 or more cards in your graveyard, target opponent loses the game. I mean, not really going to use that one too often in this deck. There's other decks that could work really well in though. Monologue tax, whenever an opponent casts their second spell, create a treasure token. Let's make it so that, if they want to deal damage to us, they're going to have to get through Tidus's strong power there. Because when that treasure token enters, we get the +1/+1 counter on him. Scrub's Hive, put a +1/+1 counter on Tidus at the start of every turn by creating a 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Mite. Also, it's toxic if we have some way to make 10 of them or something. Smothering Tide, get those treasure tokens anytime our opponent draws, getting us those 3 +1/+1 counters onto our opponent, to Tidus as we get around the table. If we had that and an Illustrious Wanderglyph on the battlefield at the same time, there you go, that's already 10 power onto Tidus. Adopter Spy Network, at the beginning of upkeep, if you control an artifact, create a 1/1 Adopter, which will also get that +1/+1 counter onto Tidus. Whenever one or more artifact creatures you control deal common damage to a player, draw a card. We like drawing cards. We need to draw cards in order to keep progressing our game state. And then we have Verity Circle. Whenever a creature you control becomes tapped, whenever a creature an opponent controls becomes tapped, if it isn't being declared as an attacker, you may draw a card. Okay, with Tidus' ability, we tap their stuff, and we get to swing in. Or we can pay 5 mana to tap their stuff, draw a card, and then swing in with Tidus even easier. For our instance, our first counter spell we have is Access Denied. It is really high cost, but counter target spell, create X 1/1 Adopters. It is really useful in this deck, though, I do have to say. An offer you can't refuse. Counter target non-creature spell, its controller creates 2 treasure tokens. In theory, we could do that to ourselves in order to give ourselves those treasure tokens in order to keep getting, the additional power there onto Tidus. Arcane Denial, counter target spell, its controller draws 2 cards, you draw a card during your next upkeep. Basically replaces itself, it's a good counter spell there, as is counter spell. Dispatch is a good removal, especially because we're going to be having 3 or more artifacts allowing us to exile a creature at any point. If not, allows us to tap a creature in order to keep swinging in with Tidus. Dovin's Veto, can't be countered, but you get to counter one of your opponent's things, allowing you to be a bit of a menace with that, and Negate, which is another counter spell. We were in a lot of counter spells in this one, actually. Pet Exile and Source Splash here for removal. I don't run Generous Gifts in this one, I just realized. Word of Invention. Why wait around until we get the artifact that we want? Let's get it right away. Oh, I just realized I don't have Simulacrum Synthesizer would be a really good card in this deck. As always, we'll do lands last. Karn Living Legacy. Create a tap Power Stone token. That's an artifact. So we're going to get that additional +1/+1 counter down to Tidus. And then you pay any mana, look at that many cards from the top of your library, then put one of those cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom. Or -7, you get an emblem with tapped and untapped artifact you control. This emblem deals 1 damage to any target. Okay, we get plenty of adopters. We get that emblem. We get payoff. Austere command for board wipe there. Fabricate to, once again, why wait around for the one that we want? Let's just put it right into our hand. Ishgard of Holy Sea. I didn't get, I'm missing some lands in here. I only have 31. But let's get the artifact that we want that was put into our graveyard back into our hand. Realm sketching. Let's create a copy of an artifact that we have. May as well. It also benefits off Tidus' ability. And if we have something that we really want, let's double up on that. Supreme Verdict. Destroy all creatures. Just a good board wipe there. Dodcast. Draw 2 cards. Affinity for artifacts, so you're normally just paying the 1 mana for this one there. And this one you're normally only paying 2 mana for to draw Jury cards and gain Jury life. But as always, I'll scroll through the lands here. But thanks so much for watching. As always, if you have questions about the deck, make sure you leave it down there in the comment section. And if you enjoyed watching, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe so you can stay tuned for future videos. I hope you have a good rest of the day.